Be a professor, and we didn't used to have microphones at that time, so I'll try to back off. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this presentation of the candidates and the open forum about some of the questions that we have for them this evening. My name is Robert Ritchell, and I am the chairperson of the election committee, and with me are members of the election committee, and I'd like to introduce them. They are who stopped you on your way in and asked if you had any questions. And they are Ann Dahlke and Jan Dalbuton and Brian Church, and also James Miller, who has an event that he had to attend, something about a parent anniversary. I don't know why people bother with that sort of stuff. But he felt like he needed to come to that, so he went. Let me explain a few ground rules this evening. We are going to be asking some questions of each of the candidates. They'll be in kind of mixed order. The person who's first won't always be the first, as well as the last won't always be the last. They have the kind of an idea about how they're going to be asked, but they have no idea what we're asking. There'll be a 3-minute opportunity for them to give an opening statement, and then with each question, they'll have 2 minutes to address that question. Over here on my left is the corporate secretary, Jessica McCrary, and she is working the time clock. So if you see the candidates kind of glancing over there occasionally, that's the reason why, because once it hits that time, they're cut off. I'm sure they could probably carry on a little bit more because after all, they are a candidate. But we're going to limit them to 2 minutes for each question. Let's make sure that I'm anything else. Five questions. I don't know that anything that they might say might spark a reason for you to applaud, but we're going to ask you not to do that. So just hold on to your celebration of what it was they said and tell them afterwards, that was great. But not during the question period. At the end, there'll be a few wrap-up things, but for right now, let's get started. I'm going to allow the candidates to introduce yourself as well as your opening statement. So we'll begin with you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jason Lloyd, running for your board for this next term. I've been a Bella Vista POA member for over 30 years, graduated Bentonville High School, and serving on your board seems like a natural, continual effort to give back to this awesome community. I'm extremely passionate about our membership and our community, and I truly, truly, honestly love and believe in Bella Vista. This is where my wife and I choose to live, raise our children, and soon, hopefully, we'll retire. With gas prices high, that might be a little longer, but therefore I believe my leadership and collaborative skills, financial knowledge, and the jobs and careers that I've had is a great addition to our community and your board. Thank you.
And I'm Marianne Bradley.
Push it a little closer to you.
Okay. My name's Marianne Bradley, and I am so thankful for this opportunity to be amongst these individuals who have such I watched their bios and listened to their bios, and they're incredible individuals. What I bring that may be a little bit different is a fresh perspective and also I've been in, as a military wife, I've been in service for the last 34 plus years with my husband in the military, and I believe in giving back to the community. And that service is extremely important, and that is why I chose to serve, besides that my father was always involved in the community, and he was very objective. People could always come to him, and he could give an objective point of view and look at both sides of the coin. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jerry Barron. I'm currently on the board at this time. We've accomplished a lot in the last 3 years with the 2020 plan. Tell you a little bit about myself. Sometimes I have a tendency to jump around, but I always focus on what I need to say. And what I need to say now is that I've been retired for 7 years, and this is my heaven, and I want to keep it that way. My wife and I originally were going to retire into Galveston Island. We're from Texas, you can't tell by my accent, and we wound up selling it after she came up here the first time. So she was a great supporter to come up here for this. This is our home. And there's a lot that goes on in this community. I've seen it. I've been coming up here for 27 years. My dad's been here for 30. And during that time, I've seen it at its low side, and I've seen it finally starting to look like it was when it was first built. And that's important to our community, to be proud of what we've got. And I've always been a part of community service in one form or another, from 4-H, raising my kids and teaching them how to raise their animals and be responsible young men, to the fact that I took on probably about 1,500 parents more than once on which animal, which judge I could have at that time. But in the corporate world, I was an environmental specialist for LyondellBasell Research America Division. I was the only environmental specialist for our research division, and we're the third biggest plastic company in the world. I think I bring a lot to the team, because it's not about one person. It's about 9 board members that work together to achieve one end. And I'd like your vote. Thank you.
That was great, Jerry. I echo many of the sentiments here, and I think many of us will share the same love for the community. I'm a hometown boy. My name is Mike Gabb. Was born and raised in Bentonville. Graduated in 1999. I'm in my 40th year. I'm one of the younger candidates to ever try to be on the board. I've been on the board twice. I'm currently serving. I'm looking forward to a 3rd term. What Jerry said about all the great work that's happened over the past 3 to 5 years has been pretty remarkable. We've seen a lot of change, but a lot of positive change, a lot of really impactful investment that's happened after years of kind of holding on to some funds and not putting them back into the properties. That's changed. Obviously, the growth rates are exponential right now. It's going to be hard to kind of get a grip on what the community is going to be going and what it's going to look like as the growth. I sit in Bentonville and Rogers and Springdale and Fayetteville on a number of other projects in my professional career, which is essentially an urban planner. And so when I bring that kind of flavor to everyone's kind of expertise or whatever, I'm in the mix in development throughout the region every day. So that's why I like to be able to try to see how Bella Vista is coming together. I've got a staked claim here. I've been here forever. I've got a number of properties. I want to see it grow and do well. But I also want to speak to Jerry's things. I want to see it sustain where it's at and not get blown out or corrupted with too much stuff. But I want to speak to everyone's vision. I think I can bring a youthful presence to that and look forward to hopefully serving on the board again. Thank you.
Good evening. Do you think we dare decide it's spring? My name is Sheila Heward, and I have been a lover of Bella Vista since actually 1989 when my folks retired here, and visited here at least once a year for many, many years until they left. I have lived here since 2013, been a property owner since 1997. And the thing that we loved the most, my entire family, was golfing. It's one of the reasons I became a property owner. And when I retired and left California, I knew I couldn't afford to live there, but I sure could afford to live in Bella Vista. And I'm so glad we're here and we love the community. I have a long, long career in healthcare. starting at a staff level, ending up as an administrator in healthcare compliance. The things that I would like to see happen, that I would commit to you, is that I will do everything I can to achieve balance between the needs and the desires of the members, as well as making sure that we operate the POA in a fiscally responsible way. I would always commit to listening to members' viewpoints. I also believe that I can be a problem solver when we're presented with something that requires that balance I talked about. I will always be honest and forthright. That's one thing that I value more than anything is honesty. I always promote Bella Vista and will continue to do so. I like to see it grow, because if you don't grow, you'll demise eventually, because there's always attrition and that sort of thing. I will always seriously consider any of your suggestions with regard to amenities and what you'd like to see happen in Bella Vista. And I want to tell you that I will always remain open-minded. I would very much appreciate your support in the election this year. Thank you.
Thank you all. Before I begin the questions, I want to mention that all of the questions were created and vetted by the members of the committee. When I ask the questions, it will be for everyone to listen to. However, if you would like for me to repeat the question during the time before you answer, I'll be happy to do that as well. So the first question goes to Mr. Lloyd, and we'll be going down the same way. Mr. Lloyd, a recent survey revealed that many respondents are confused about the role and responsibilities of the POA, the ACC, and the city. What suggestions do you have for assisting our members to better understand the specific function of the Property Owners Association?
Good question, and yeah, that comes up a lot on social media, as most of us anymore travel social media websites and Facebook pages, and you know, there's a thing out there that shows the three pillars, and I like to get out, and whenever I see some communication problems or misunderstanding, just nicely put, you know, here are the pillars. So I think the continuation of education and communication as much in different avenues and different ways that we possibly can, not only the POA from the amenity aspect of it, but the city and the ACC from their aspects of it as well. I think it's something we'll continue to be challenged with, but you know, everybody sticking in and jumping in together, I think we can minimize some of that problem.
Ms. Bradley?
Thank you. The specific function of the POA, I believe for me, most importantly, is to, as Jason pointed out, the three pillars, but also listening to the members and truly listening so that they feel heard and seen, and that they don't feel that, I mean, ACC and other things, that things are being micromanaged, that they don't have choice. So understanding, giving them the understanding of the POA, what we are about and what the board is for. And I appreciated what Jerry said. It's not one person, it's a collective group.
Thank you. Mr. Barron?
You've probably heard this before. The ACC, the city, and the POA are definitely three entities. Three entities that get confused all the time. And that's probably an understatement, because they really get confused at all times. But I think we put it in one of our newsletters that came out and called it a three-legged stool. That's the best way to describe it, I see. POA's amenities. Amenities are restaurants. That's pretty much the POA. The city is just the governing body of the city. Trash, roads, yeah, but then you get into the ACC, and it really boils down to, right now, one man. And we have asked from the POA more than once to bring that duty over to the POA or give it to the city. But when you got three governing functions going on, it makes it very difficult. So through education and continuously answering the question and spending the time to talk to each person that calls in with their problem, we've always been able to help. The other day, I had a lady that sent us a blistering email about something that was happening on her place that we had nothing to do with as a POA. We pointed it out to her that we're not that function, and we got her in touch with that person that needed to help her. And that's what we've got to continue to do, just keep directing people to each other, each group that can help them. We're obligated to do that. I might not know the answer, but I'll find the answer. And by doing that, I think that we'll all become educated on how our city really functions on all three bodies. That's it.
Mr. Abb?
Well, I think I'm of the mindset of most people that we'd like to see the ACC somehow get absorbed into the city or the POA's functions. That's going to take, not necessarily moving heaven and earth, but it's going to take some votes of the membership in some form or function in order to kind of disband the ACC. More information about how to get to that path, I think, needs to be clear for everybody. I think it's time for Cooper to manage his own properties in the village and not everyone else's. And I think that's pretty much where I stand with that. And if we can take over some of those duties, how do we continue to keep the essence of the ACC and its initial conception to keep some of the beauty intact of Bella Vista and some of the standards that it takes to build correctly and make communities that look great into the future still at the core of our development cycle here. And that's where the ACC's functions are misunderstood, because I do believe they're in the right realm of influence, but they've chosen the wrong topics to go out after. So that's my take on it.
Ms. Jordan?
I have to agree, definitely confusing, and I'm not convinced that I understand it completely, even since I've moved here in 2013. But again, if we're redundant and can be more efficient by combining functions and clearly separating those things that have to be done, then it will probably go a long way. Now, based on what Mike and Jerry have said with their experience on the board to date and their experience in the discussions, I can't give you any answers for that, but I certainly would be willing to learn and listen and weigh the options and determine what is the best way for the POA to go with regard to that. There's no reason for the POA to be involved in what the city takes care of. That's clear and pretty simple and straightforward. ACC is another story altogether. But I don't have the answer because I don't understand exactly the functions that they provide. Thank you.
Before we get to the second question, I have a couple of housekeeping duties to do. First of all, I want to tell the board that our timer is still set at 3. So when it gets down to 1, you're done, okay? Because that takes your 2 minutes. And for any latecomers that came in, I asked the audience to please hold applause, and if you're happy with something that somebody said, then congratulate them following the meeting, okay? So for the second question, we're going to begin on this end and go the opposite way. So this comes to you first. The board recently approved funding for the complete renovation of Riordan Hall. What are your thoughts regarding the POA taking on such a large and significant project?
I think it's a wonderful thing. I don't know if you're all aware, but this building is 50 years old. And the wiring is to the point where it won't even continue to meet code. And so it's a necessary thing. I'm glad that we're doing a renovation because we can take some of the infrastructure of the building itself, improve it, upgrade the things that need to be upgraded, much less expensive than tearing the building down and starting from scratch. I liked the presentation. I watched the live streaming of the board when Tom Judson gave the presentation about what they have planned. And it looks like it's going to be beautiful and serve functions more widely than what we currently have. There'll be additional exercise facilities in the building. I think it's very wise, and I also think that the POA is to be congratulated with regards to the amount of money that is currently in hand that will be used towards that renovation, thereby minimizing the loans that would need to be taken in order to get the job done. Thank you.
Mr. Abbott.
We know it's needed. It's exciting that one of the core standards of the community gets buffed up in a kind of 2.0 fashion. There's been incremental investment around this campus for decades with the expansion of the tennis courts and even Papa Mike's coming in and the pool renovations and the trail and. But to your point, yeah, all the utilities, the core infrastructure of the building is at its lifespan. And so what do you do to kind of get that ready just to be able to use this? And well, I think that the plan that we put together looks like it addresses a lot of the needs out there, including putting the kind of guest services and the water department and having them out in the parking lot. So everything, when you come into Riordan Lane, you can really hit a number of different functions here, which kind of does speak to that kind of campus feel and lets people not have to go from here, there, and everywhere to deal with a lot of the functions that they want to do in the community, including work out, enjoy programming here at Riordan Hall, but also handle your water bill or get onboarded to be a new citizen here. So I really enjoy the plan. I thought we spent the right type of thought process to go about conceiving it, and I'm glad everybody on the board approved it.
Mr. Barron.
Yeah, I was all in favor of remodeling Riordan Hall. I was not in favor of rebuilding Riordan Hall. This was kind of the best avenue for us to go and be fiscally responsible. But to answer your question of how bad it needed, look at the floor. That's 50 years of it. And if you look at the sides of the walls and stuff, that's almost the exact picture that was here made 50 years ago. The utilities that people have used here, we had a big fire prior to it. That's brought it to our attention that this building needed to be something done. And it was almost pretty bad. Fire department was called and they had a bad electrical fire. So all the electrical systems in here had to be redone. And we've already spent a lot of money there, so why not capture that cost? So by doing, like Mike was saying, doing the member services as well as re-beautifying this place and making it more friendly to all of us. And I hated the gym over there because you're looking at a hill, but at least over here you can see people enjoying themselves, and there's so much more, just the reposition of all the meeting rooms and the exercise equipment that's going to bring a lot of joy to everybody. So with that said, I think it's a win-win for Bella Vista. We made a smart decision by capturing synergies to try to do the member service and this at the same time, because they'll just go back and forth. We don't have different crews that'll do it that'll cost us extra money. So it's much needed.
Ms. Bradley.
And yes, I agree with the renovation of Riordan Hall, and I also watched the live stream of when they talked about how they would go about it. And it's incredible that the cost is so much less than, like you said, building a new building. And I'd like to give an analogy for, as we're getting older, we need a little bit of upkeep as our bodies begin to age, right? And just like a building, it needs certain things that have to be put in place so that it's safe, the aesthetics are enjoyable, and like Jerry pointed out, just the placing of the fitness room on the other side so that what you're looking at is enjoyable to look at. So I totally agree with the renovation of Riordan Hall.
Mr. Lloyd.
I echo everyone sitting up here, fully supportive of the renovations. I'll add one other thing. I won't bore you guys repeating what everybody else has said, but one other thing is there's been and continues to be some change in the demographic here in Bella Vista, and some activity changes as well. For example, pickleball now is a big thing, and some different activities that are out there that this building when it was built. We didn't even know what pickleball was, but some different things. So being able to adjust to the needs of our community and our membership, I think is going to be great well into the future with the renovation of the building.
Thank you. Our third question comes to Mr. Barron. Be the first to respond to this. It's a study conducted by the POA membership indicated that the membership may be asked to vote on a $3 per month assessment increase. In the past, if an assessment increase fails, there may be a need to increase usage fees. What are your thoughts regarding a $3 per month assessment increase if it would mean keeping amenity fees the same for 3 more years?
Okay, that's a good question. And I can like to start by, how much does it cost you to fill up your tank? It costs quite a lot. Before we got the first assessment increase, it was almost 20 years before it happened. And then a lot of people fought it because they didn't, my own dad didn't want it to happen. But in reality, we were living on something, a budget that was 20 years behind, and we were falling farther and farther behind. And the result is, you saw, if you've been here a while, you saw those facilities going downhill, okay? When we came back up, we got it going, it's looking good, and we came up with the 2020 plan. It worked real well. It locked the fees in for that increase, and it helped a lot of areas. We couldn't be remodeling this building without it. And when you kind of look at it, the economy is down right now, and we don't know where it's going to go or how quick it's going to come back up. But we're still working on a budget 3 years ago today. So would the assessment be needed? Yeah, in my opinion, I think it would. But it would keep the amenities basically the same. There'd be a few amenities that would have to go up to adjust the margins. I can see that, and I understand that. But like I said earlier, this is our paradise, and I want to keep it that way. And we are changing. Our dynamics are changing. Our groups are changing, and we're trying to meet all those demands. And we can't do it on a broke budget. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Lloyd?
Interesting question, good question, and Jerry, good answer. I know you were involved with the board in the past, and I think it's hard somewhat hard for somebody coming into the board to understand some of the nitty-gritty financial pieces. We all have access to them. We can all read them online. Everything is available and transparent from the POA as far as the cost and things. I also believe eventually there needs to be an increase. When that is, I don't know. I honestly don't. I think there can be some slight adjustments in some fees right now to keep up with the inflation that unfortunately we're experiencing in America. But eventually it's going to come up again, as we know it will. But for me to be honestly answer, I would have to have a little bit more due diligence in the backside and understand kind of what has happened in the past and where things need to go from a budgeting and a financial perspective.
Ms. Eward?
When they were doing the 2020 plan and presenting it to staff, or to the community, to the POA members, there was an awful lot of uproar around that whole subject. And I attended a board meeting one night, and I don't know if any of you have availed yourself of this process, but as a POA member, you can go into the board meeting and write down that you want to speak during the open session of the board if there was a hot topic. Well, that was a hot topic. And I have to repeat some of what I said then, and that was, think about, like Jerry said, 20 years, a budget that was 20 years old, and assessment fees that were 20 years old. Even since 2019, what's happened to the cost of living? What's happened to the cost of services? What's happened to salaries and wages? And so on and so forth. 3 years ago, I said, you know what, we're not paying anybody what we paid them 20 years ago. And it's even worse now because it's so hard to get the help that you need. And so they have to really make salaries and wages competitive. And so anytime there's an assessment increase, think very hard about what amenities you use. The cost of many of those totally went away with the 2020 plan. So if we were to start paying again for some of the services provided in the recreational facilities, it would be a shock, I think, after 3 years of not having to do that. And I think a $3 or whatever it needs to be is a small price to pay when you consider what it costs to operate any kind of a business, whether it be a POA or the craft shop down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abb.
Well, I don't really like the cycle that it is. Is it kind of ad hoc? Are we going to go for an assessment increase? Are we not? Are we going to wait 20 years? Are we not? I'd like to see this POA become more formalized in the sense of how it changes with inflation and how it has a rolling increase of some sort. I feel like those percentages and those numbers really need tinkered on. We should be really every year having some percentage increase and not this should we or should we not, and trying to pit like amenities against each other, or like, well, I use this and I don't use that, and the same old rigmarole that's gone around for decades when talking about this stuff. I mean, you're talking about investing in the community, not necessarily yourself. And that seems to get pretty hazy when a lot of people want to talk about assessment increases. And to me, I hope we can get to a percentage that just happens every year. That's what I want to see us get to, and not this, is it $1, is it $2? We should try to set a percentage that we go towards yearly. I don't see any other way around it, personally. Do we need more money? We always need more money. Doesn't everybody need more money? If you can always find a way to spend it, especially in a community this large. And the salaries and wages, there's no stronger point that can be made about this all. It's not necessarily about the amenities, about the people that help run them and the kind of group that we are as co-investors and how we treat those people. And that starts sometimes with their wages.
Ms. Bradley.
One point I want to make about the amenities that we have and how much we're paying for them right now. On average, we're paying 1/4 the national average for the amount of amenities that we have available to us here in Bella Vista. And whether we use all of them or just one or two, we really have an amazing deal. And I appreciate what Mike said about it would be nice just to have a constant knowledge of, okay, it's going to go up this percentage per year, so that it's not a shock to everyone, oh, all of a sudden it's this much money per year. But I just believe that it's important for us to look at where we are, what we have, and the average cost. It's $160 per month for what we have right now, and we're paying less than $45 a month if you average in, if you're married and your spouse and you both have an activity card, then $37 per property. You're paying less than $45 a month for all of those amenities. So I appreciate that assessment is made and that recognizing that we really have a great deal here.
Thank you. Our fourth question comes first to Mr. Abb. Northwest Arkansas has seen rapid growth in the recent years, and Bella Vista has seen a building boom as well. With the changing demographics of the new members, what type of services or amenities should the POA be looking at offering that they maybe currently aren't?
Well, I think we do a pretty good job. I don't really feel like there's a number of amenities that we're missing in the community per se that would appeal to a younger demographic, other than probably expanding the pools. You know, I think our playgrounds could always use upgraded, and we've done a pretty good job at Lake Avalon, and we've done some really good work here at Riordan. But really, we've got the brand new amenity for that age group. Really, it's the trail system. And it's just now coming into its understanding. I mean, it's only a few years old. There's 100 miles of it. I think it will continue to impact the community in a positive way and be an outlet for the generations that you speak of to recreate on. What I personally would like to see is more indoor facilities, and that's kind of going to be spoken to when we redo Riordan, and that'll hopefully, I know an indoor pool would be needed, a second one, an indoor basketball court would be nice. These are kind of standard amenities in certain kind of communities, because we have a YMCA, and that's great and all, and hopefully we can continue to recruit more things like that to the city, but that's also for the city to deal with, not just the POA. So I like where we sit with the amenities right now, and I'm excited to see how the trail system continues to evolve over the given years here.
Ms. Eward?
Sorry. I have a really hard time imagining what else we could possibly need, to tell you the truth. I mean, there isn't anything that I've thought about wanting to do that I haven't been able to do in Bella Vista since I've lived here. My ability to play golf is diminished because of my health condition, but I still play golf. I can't play as many holes as I once did. I can walk short distances. I can't walk the 99 miles of trails, but we have bicyclists and walkers and runners, and we have all the stuff we need, really. Pickleball is another example. I mean, I didn't know what pickleball was until the last year or so. Once I saw it on a video, I thought, wow, that looks pretty fun. But it's not something that I've ever done, but it became something that people wanted, and so now we have it. And when they redo Riordan Hall, we're going to have an indoor pickleball, which would really appeal to me, because if I would do something like that, I want to do it year-round. And I don't think I want to be out in the cold playing pickleball, to tell you the truth. But I think as the community grows and if the demographics change, we're going to hear from people. That's one thing that's, I think, is really important for all of the board members, is to say, what do you want? What do you think? What would you like to see? And if we don't open those lines of communication and talk about that kind of stuff, then we're not going to know. And so I think it's really, really important that the lines of communication remain open, that you take advantage of the ability to speak with the board members. Thank you.
Ms. Bradley?
I also agree that we have quite a variety of amenities for the demographics, and as the demographics change and we have younger and younger people moving into the area, I believe we really can cater and already are catering to younger demographics, as well as having the amenities that are available to those of us who don't ride as fast and as well as some of these young people do on the trails. And we enjoy the tennis, the golf, and the swimming, because it's easier on our joints, especially the swimming. And I also agree that in the future that we would probably need another indoor pool, but that's in the future. So I believe that we really are providing a great amount of amenities to each demographic.
Mr. Lloyd?
Again, echo the fellow candidates up here on, we have a plethora of amazing amenities today. One of the things that, as Mary Ann and Mike and Sheila all mentioned, is the demographic, a little bit of a change in demographics. So one of the things I would like to see maybe is some more playground areas for the younger children. But I think most importantly, and I definitely can speak for myself and most on this panel today, is, you know, as we're elected to your board, it's my job to get out to the community and talk to the membership and see what the membership wants to have, and that's what we work towards. I don't have the answers to everything, but the membership will tell us the directions we need to go. So that's what I would do if I was on the board.
Mr. Barron?
I think every member has something they like to do, whether it's been playing cards, walking the trails, riding the bikes, playing golf, fishing on the lake, swimming. Everybody has something to do, and each year that I've been on the board, we've always reviewed the wants of the members. And we look at them realistically. Is the population enough? Are there enough kids here to do a playground for baseball park or something like that? And I'm sure that's coming, but it's not today. There's not enough young kids. Those dynamics are changing. The playgrounds that we've talked about up here, I think they're great. But I'll tell you what I'd like a senior playground. Because I actually tried one time, and it was a blast. So there are things out there that we need to keep our minds open enough to bring into the community, because that's what's going to keep us all young, because that's what it is. As young as you feel you are is how you treat your life. So I'm going to stay as active as I can, and if I can be a kid again, I will.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Our last question comes first to Ms. Bradley. Can you suggest any areas in which the POA and the city of Bella Vista can cooperate to better serve the residents of Bella Vista?
That is a very good question. Okay, there we go. That is a great question. I don't have a solid answer for that. I think that I would need more input from the members and what they feel is important for the collaboration of the city and the POA. So rather than give you an answer that a politician would give you, I'd rather hear from more of you and what your feeling is on that. That's my answer.
Mr. Barron? Yes, can you suggest any areas that the POA and the city can cooperate to better serve the residents of Bella Vista?
Actually, I can. And it's not going to be an easy road to do, because each, like the three-legged stool, everybody's got their own specific thing, and it will take the education of the members to understand what each of those are. I think even right now, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am mistaken, even some of the road repairs are done by the POA, because there's not a big enough crew for the city. I think that we can kind of capture synergies between the POA and the city in various aspects like that. But Cooper, for example, they're getting ready to, from what I hear, build a whole bunch of homes out by the bypass. We have no control over that, but you got to ask yourself where they get in the water, and they will become part of Bella Vista. So those dynamics will have to be worked out, and the only way that's going to be worked out between the two parties is communication. We have to know what each one of us is doing, each governing body. And where it's our specialty, we've got to be able to say, hey, this is where we need to step in here. And I think we do a good job of that. Other than that, it's going to be, I think back to when we became a city. We were a village. I think there was a lot of discussion over who got what. Fire department, who handled the water, who handled the streets, who handled the garbage, and it was all broke down. That's probably a pretty good example of what we'd have to do on everything in the future as we move forward. We'll have to have that discussion. So,
Mr. Lloyd?
Another excellent question. And as Jerry just mentioned, when the POA or the village, I was around when the village switched to the city, and that was a very fun time. The cooperation, I think, today seems to be fairly fairly good for the most part. I think one of the things, as we spoke a minute ago about, what other amenities that we could bring forward, and I had mentioned, playgrounds, and somebody else had said, ball fields and different things, and I think that might be something that we could look at, city leagues as again that demographic grows and the younger demographic, and I've never seen a senior playground, Jerry, but I'm interested. I'm gonna go look that up, see what that is. But city softball leagues for adults or something like that, where we can maybe collaborate a little bit more. and the POA have the amenity side of it or the field side of it, and the city do the organizational side of it. And then I'll also kind of echo what Mary Ann said. Being new into this, from this side of the table, it's going to take me just a little bit to kind of figure out how those dynamics work. And again, as Mary Ann also said, discussing things with the membership would be very important. So I can get more answers later, but right now that's kind of where I would stand.
Thank you. Ms. Eward?
I have to admit that when you asked that question, I thought, I have no idea. I know the difference, the distinction between what the city should be doing and what the POA should be doing. Like we talked earlier, the ACC is a little bit of a question mark in my mind. But again, talking, being open and honest, listening to what people have to say, what their desires are from all the various demographics is going to be critical going forward. And there will be subjects that come up where there has to be some discussion of, is this a single organization's venue or is it a joint venue with more than one organization? And so, I mean, I don't have answers because I'm not well enough educated and the differences and how you would divide that up. Thank you.
Mr. Abb?
Yeah, well, Cooper owes it to this community to be at the table in a public light. From the ACC's overrule on people's properties to his just role as a landlord and the master developer of the city, he owes it to Bella Vista to have a more known presence and where they stand. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They hide away and they place it unnaturally on the city and the POA to clean up the mess. There's going to be a new mayor. Peter Christie's not running again. So that gives us another opportunity to galvanize that relationship to the next level. The entire village and town or city, or however we want to reference Bella Vista, is owed that kind of clarity. And I know the apathy in the voting is abysmal, and I'm so glad to even see people out in the seats today, but unless we continue to push on these core leaderships of these companies and these organizations, we're never going to get what we need. We need them to be upfront and be the leaders that they're supposed to be at the table. They should be up here. They should be up here monthly, quarterly, however long it demands for us as membership to understand how our investment dollars are being spent, who's utilizing them for what means, and for how we're looking to grow into the future. I also lament that we feel really divided from the rest of Northwest Arkansas. Tons of great things are happening here. I don't see Bella Vista at the table enough. How are we not understanding the relationship of our other cities around us? We are not as insular as we think, and there's a lot of good things and a lot of learnings to be had from other cities. And as we continue to grow and the chart only goes up and up and up in population, well, not the POA and the city doesn't have all the answers. And sometimes you have to seek your peer groups out there in the community to help understand how growth's going to affect you as well. So that's what I would like to see going forward. And I want to take the last few seconds here to thank all my fellow candidates here for coming out tonight, and all you folks out here in the audience for sacrificing that beautiful day to hear us talk about community. Thank you.
Well, that concludes the questions. However, you about stepped on my next, what I was going to do next. If you have a final comment, which that was very close, we're going to start with Ms. Eward and go down the opposite direction that we began with the initial comments, the opening comments. But if you have something you would like to say, please do it this time. Ms. Eward, we'll start with you.
Yes, I want to thank you all for being here, for taking an interest. And I would encourage you, as we go forward, regardless of who of us end up on the board, that you avail yourself of live streaming of meetings, that you're able to stay abreast of what's happening in the Joint Advisory Committee meetings. They're all on the website. You can look at the rules and regulations. You can look at minutes of meetings, and you can watch the actual meetings, the presentations. And there's also periodic information about just what's going on around here. And so I would very much encourage you all to avail yourself of those opportunities, because you will become more aware of what's going on around you, and what's happening. Thank you.
Mr. Drab, you're next.
I would just say, just try to encourage your neighbors and your friend groups to get out and vote in the election. Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming tonight. I think that we all have concerns for our community, or you wouldn't be here. We've got a lot of stuff to do in the next several years that will affect each and every one of us. And I make a challenge to you. Get out there and try something new in our amenities. Try something out there, just something new for the first time. You should have seen me trying pickleball. I spent more time walking around the tennis court or the court to get my ball that was on the outside. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I do believe that as long as you believe that you can do something, there's nothing we can't do as a community. We've seen it since the day that it went from the village to the city. We've seen everything that's changed. And y'all have seen some big changes here. And those, as the new people come in, more than, 500 to 600 homes for the last couple of years, those dynamics will change. But the main core is us. Those that are buying homes right now have young families, and their focus is their families. They don't have time. They're going to baseball practice or a dance recital or something like that with their kids. But eventually they're going to turn to the amenities that we have. And if we keep them pristine, oh, this is heaven. Then none of us can challenge that. So thank you for your vote. If you vote for me, thank the candidates for being up here. I appreciate it because it's a lot of time that each of us give. And I will say without a doubt, I've been accused 100 times of making too much money. And this is a volunteer scenario. Thank you.
Ms. Bradley.
I too want to thank everyone for coming and encourage you to not only get out and vote, but vote your conscience, and also to encourage your neighbors to vote. And I, like Jerry, tried something new this last summer. I did paddle boarding, and it was quite comical. But just the amenities we have, I am so grateful for them because being outdoors is so good for the soul. And just appreciate you being here. And I appreciate everyone here on the board. They're all extremely talented and gifted.
I, like everybody else, thank you all for being here this evening, and yes, it was a beautiful evening. I didn't realize we didn't get paid for this, Jerry, so I'm just kidding. One thing that, and why I'm sitting here, and I know most of the people, I've just met Mary Ann, but I know most of the people on this panel up here, and I know most of the board members, and a lot of the membership, 99.9% of the membership I talk to, the thing that we have that we cherish is Bella Vista, and it's Bella Vista pride. And we need to remember that. When you're out in the community, utilize the amenities, utilize the restaurants, have pride in Bella Vista, That's one of the reasons that I'm sitting here and want your vote. I mean, this is our community, and the board of directors is your board. And don't forget that. My phone number, our email addresses and phone numbers, ask questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you, Jerry and Mike, for their service. And I see Jan and JB. And if I missed somebody, I apologize. But I've been on the golf committee for going on 5 years and chair for 4 years. So I've got some experience in the community and love the membership. Love our community, and as everybody said, yeah, definitely get out and vote. Do your research and get out and vote. Thank you again for coming, and everybody have a nice evening.
Thank you. Before I conclude tonight's proceedings, I want to mention that it will be on YouTube, it's on the Facebook page, and it's also be on the Bella Vista POA website as well. So if you're interested in reviewing that, or somebody, well, I just wasn't there, couldn't make it, those 3 areas are available to them. And before I conclude, I'd like for you to join me in thanking these people for participating this evening. Thank you very much for coming. We are adjourned.